much for coming, or for allowing us to come here. We're currently at the VanDoIt headquarters, warehouse, where you guys manufacture everything. We're sitting here with Brent and Jarrod. Thank you guys. Why don't you kind of talk a little bit about who you guys are and what you guys do here?
Yeah, I'm Brent Klein, and I'm one of the co-founders of the VanDoIt brand. I can let him introduce himself, but he's the other co-founder. And I grew up in the sporting goods, RVs, race cars, motorcycles, you name it. I was telling somebody yesterday, I said, it was a time when, parents could kind of let kids go, and mine did, and I had a lot of fun. And all of our vacations were in vans or RVs, and so I grew up camping and very comfortable in vans and RVs. And I'm gonna just kind of, it's a third generation business, starting with Klein Automotive Group. Actually, it's Klein Auto in Manly, Iowa in 1947. My grandfather, Woody Klein, and then that spawned into Woody's Automotive Group and Klein Automotive Group, and then Klein Automotive Group got into the van business, and we were upfitting vans for plumbers and electricians and summer camps and ski resorts and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to try to make this quick, but a little backstory is that I had one guy on the Klein van side that really ran things. And I mean, I referred to him as the machine, extremely efficient, never wasted even an ounce of time. And he ran the company. And one day I got a phone call one early morning, and he had passed away. Fortunately enough, we were nationwide leasing these vans to all these types of people who have need of our vans. And I had a company who had pursued us for buying our portfolio for quite a number of years. Within the week, I had called and said, "Hey, is your offer still good?" Right. And they said, "Yes, it actually is." They didn't lower the offer. Good for them. That was nice. And so we sold off a large portfolio of the company, mostly on the East and the West Coast. Well, why don't you introduce yourself at this point, and then I can come back to that story.
No, that's great to kind of hear the first little context about how it started.
Yeah.
But Jarrod, take it away, man.
So, Jarrod McCausland. I have a few titles, I guess you could say. Some call me the mad scientist. I'm kind of a GM of sorts, but my real title is COO. So I kind of run the company here locally, from the side of production all the way through. Yeah. And
I'm not here often, so he runs the company.
Yeah. So my background comes from just years of everyone in my family are all entrepreneurs. My brother's 8 years older than me, entrepreneur. Same way with all my parents and grandparents. And I grew up with my brother being 8 years older. He was a DJ, and I got into DJing with him when I was like 12. So traveling, DJing, all of that. At the same time, I kind of started my first business, per se, whenever I was like 13, and I was building speaker boxes and subwoofer boxes for high schoolers. So like the old MTV show, Pimp My Ride, that was basically me in our hometown. And so I did that for kids, 6, 8 years older than me. And just kind of started doing that more and more all the time. And I was kind of like with my brother in the background, he kind of kept pushing for me for the audio side and all those different techniques, I guess you could say. Right. It made me kind of love just new technologies, being able to advance technologies, things like that. And then went off to college. While I was at college, I wanted wholesale pricing on car audio equipment. So I worked for a car audio place to be able to do that. And in the summer, we have a lake about an hour and a half where I went to school. And we did, at the time, home automation wasn't like it was becoming a really big deal, but it had to all be custom. There's no like out-of-box solutions for home automation. So the guy I work for, he was an electrical engineer, which you don't typically find that in a small car audio store. And so Seth, we would get these kits in for these houses, and we'd tear it apart, make our own resistors, make our own systems. And so I learned from him the ins and outs of audio, like the really technical side. And he got me to really fall in love with the real detailed niche parts of it. And so I went from my own background of, growing up on a farm, you learn how to do just everything, to went to college, brought that. And then when I graduated college, I went and worked for a corporation where I did nothing but numbers. So I really started to understand the business side of things, financials and statements and all that kind of stuff, all the stuff no one thinks fun, but I love numbers. And so I kind of just built this really weird toolbox of kind of one-off skills that I've just been, by kind of the grace of God, I keep getting handed kind of the right people along the way. It keeps teaching me, not just how to install a head unit in a car, but more importantly, how do you integrate a head unit that no one else knows how to integrate in an Audi or a BMW? That's the type of stuff I learned to do very early on. And so, and then kind of jumping back to what Brent was kind of explaining, kind of takes us from there.
Yeah.
So this is kind of good. We're a little tennis thing going on here, volleyball, whatever you want to say it.
Yeah.
So I'd mentioned Klein Automotive Group and then Klein Van, and then the guy running the company, his name was Doug. He passed away, and it was a very sad day. Doug and I were very close, and I just had to make decisions. So as I said, I sold off a portion of the company. Well, about 2 weeks after I had made the deal to sell off the portion of the company, which was really East and West Coast, mostly East and West Coast. I kept the ability to operate regionally, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew that it'd been a good business to me. I couldn't run it on a national level anymore, but I still wanted the opportunity to see where it might go just locally.
Right.
So about 2 weeks after Doug passed away, I got a call from Jarrod, who was living in VanDoIt, Georgia, and he said, "Hey, now Jarrod, something you don't know yet, I'm telling you now, is my son-in-law." So married my youngest daughter and took her to VanDoIt, Georgia. That's the Florida-Georgia line. He said, "Hey, I've learned a lot while I'm down here. You know my background. I think I could put it to use. I know Doug has passed away. I would like to come home and run that portion of the company." Wow. And I said, "Well, Jarrod, that's a great thought, but the company is not what it was.
Yeah.
It's we're going to be developing the company. We didn't have any retail locations. Everything we did was we ordered from the factory and we shipped these vans out to all these companies nationwide, and we had an office, and that's about it." And so I said, what we can do is set up a local rental operation and start this company kind of from scratch.
Yeah.
Well, he said, that's something I'm going to have to think about, because it's no longer what it was.
See you at dinner tomorrow night.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of weeks went by of us kind of talking back and forth, but one day Jarrod finally called and he said, "You know what? I've done my homework. I've asked you a lot of questions. I think you've been very straightforward with me, almost talked me out of coming, but I still think I need to come. But here's the question I have for you. I need to know if you still have what it takes to, the energy-wise,
Wow.
business-wise,
Yeah.
to really grow this into something big." And I said, "The van business?" And he said, "I really don't know. I know that I'm not coming to stand behind a rental counter the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I want to do something much bigger. I know you've been there, and I want to know if you still have it in you."
gusto.
Yeah, you still have it in you. And I said, I think I got to think about that a little bit. So I called him back and I said, "Yes, what do you got in mind? Do you have anything in mind?" And he said, "Honestly, it could be real estate. It could be the van business. It could be anything. I really don't know. I just want to know if I make the investment to come, that you're willing to do something much
Take it to the
bigger,
next level.
whatever it is." Mm-hmm. And so then I said yes. So he came home and started that little van operation right out of Kansas City, Missouri, unless you
Didn't look like this though.
No, it didn't look like this
Didn't
at all.
look like this.
No, it was
How'd you guys acquire your customers?
It was a
in the
little
very
office.
beginning?
Well, we started, so it's
One at a time.
Yeah. So when I came back, VanDoIt still was not a thought at all.
Was it called VanDoIt?
No, it
No,
was
it's
Klein
just
Van.
Klein Van.
Just
Klein
Klein Van.
Yeah.
And so, like you mentioned, like before the business was all, coast to coast, leasing, units didn't come in. So What we did was we strive for basically a storefront location, so like a daily rental operation.
A local customer base.
Yeah.
And the first year, kind of just jumping back in the saddle, changing up the whole business model, starting from scratch, really. I mean, we'd done the
really
business,
was, yeah.
but
a whole new business.
Yeah, but I mean, we were competing with guys down the street, not guys across the country anymore. Right. So it was a whole new game that we had to play, which was great because I came with very fresh eyes. I had no old habits. I had no other ways of thinking. I had nothing. I had Brent backing me, and I had him for support and a whole team of others. Okay. But we came back and we started daily operation, and we went through the first summer. And things were going extremely good.
Building custom vans.
No, still
okay.
not that. Just renting passenger
renting
vans.
Yeah.
These vans behind us, but just
there wasn't even a
passengers.
thought of this yet.
No, still nothing. So we
4 rows of seats.
Yep.
That's
yep.
it.
Yep.
Just renting
yep.
vans.
Summer camps,
churches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Families just going to vacation.
Colorado.
Right.
And so we ran that, and that was the only thing we had going for that whole first summer. Came out of the summer. We dove into some real estate and dove into some other things, just kind of turning the
Testing
brain.
the water a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of trying to get aggressive here, but then kind of back trying to figure out where we saw a niche. And then kind of through the whole process of the fall, I kept thinking, how do we take our daily passenger vans and how do we basically turn them into something where I can take the market?
Like a second life,
Right.
like
Right.
recycling. Everybody loves recycling, or at least they should.
Yeah.
And so how can we have a second use for this van?
Yeah.
For the current vans that you
For the-
guys are renting
Yes,
out,
correct.
Because
passenger vans.
Right.
typically it's a summer business, right? So normally you buy them new and you rent them out, but then you don't want to hold on to them all winter long, and so you sell them or take them back to an auction, sell them to dealers.
Buy a new fleet the next
buy a new
year.
fleet the next
Right.
year. So how can we recycle that van?
Right. And so that's what I started. We just started turning. It's like, Brent, what do we think we could do with these vans? Well, at the time, Brent was wanting to start traveling a little bit, being able to kind of kid out before I started having grandkids that tied him back to home. I can put money on the rental side. I can just put money into marketing. I can put money into a lot of things to try to grow the business locally.
Yeah.
Or I can offer every single customer in the Kansas City area something different at no extra cost. So I started adding 32-inch TVs, these passenger vans, for no additional fee. Everyone else was doing it
Big
for
old
additional
video
fee.
monitor.
Yeah. So most people, if you want the van with the TV, it costs you more.
Right.
I was throwing them in every van, and it didn't cost you any more. So we just started getting the business because people were seeing the added value. Added discount, but for us, it's how did we acquire?
Yep.
Well, I kind of took that idea and kind of just kept sending stuff to Brent through the fall and was like, hey, if I built you a van to travel in, would you want this or would you want that? And he started giving me kind of just his input back.
Actually, I would want this.
Right,
Yeah.
just
You know?
like this works, but no, like I'm a cyclist and I don't want to move my seat of my bike.
Yeah. I
So
don't have to make a bed every single night.
Right,
Correct.
Want it to be-
right, you want it where it is.
I want my
and-
bikes under the bed.
Right.
I
Right.
want things modular.
Yeah.
And it was just one thing after another. He'd go on Pinterest, look at stuff, send me pictures. Does this work for you? No. Does this work for you? Yes. Yeah. So
And why? Like
Yeah.
this
How many
doesn't
years ago
work.
was this?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was already, I mean, just from following on Instagram, there was already these accounts, that were reposting van lifers. So
Right.
you were on Pinterest, on social media,
Watching
looking,
this.
yeah, watching this kind
Yeah,
of
saying like where are the molds, like where are the niches, not even thinking of a business yet,
Right.
still thinking about just building Brent a van.
Yeah.
And so kind of finally got an idea kind of nailed down, and in the wintertime business kind of backs off for rental, we're acquiring, it's just a totally different time frame for me in my position. So I was back in Chillicothe where Brent lives, and we were there for Christmas, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a passenger van. It's perfectly fine, perfectly good in rental, full value, could sell it tomorrow, kind of deal, and start gutting it.
Yeah.
Went to a facility that we had with a couple old bays in it where no one was, and I just started ripping everything out. And the Klein boys, John and Alan, who are Brent's sons, my brother-in-laws, they both joined in while I was home, and we all just started ripping stuff out, cutting stuff out of wood,
Right.
2x4s, plywood.
So I'll let Jarrod finish, but this was an exciting day for the Klein boys because years before.
Is this van still around, by the way?
Not the wood
No.
one.
No.
But the van itself is actually parked out back.
Yeah, we've taken it all back out, but
Yeah.
but years before, several years before, I bought a Volkswagen microbus. So it was a 1967 or whatever Volkswagen, and we were going to restore it as a project, father and 2 sons.
Right.
And you ever overpromise, you know? So I overcommitted, I overpromised. Years go by. And then I actually bought another one. I thought, well, we'll restore 2. So it's not like I overpromised once, I overpromised twice. So now
One for each boy.
yeah, my sons still, like, they look at me once in a while, like, you just lied to us, you know? So anyway, they had this, from really pretty young age, they had this desire to make a camper van, you know, because that's what we always intended to do. And I still do own those 2 microbuses,
Really?
and they still have not been restored. But
Crisis.
Jarrod and my 2 sons are, over the holidays, really trying to kind of build me a Christmas present, you know. And so I walked in, and there they were building on this van.
Yep. So that would have been
And you're like, hey, can I get part of this? I know I promised you guys a lot, but
yeah. So that so we started building, and that was so that would have been 3 years ago this past New Year. So so we started basically building it. We kind of built an idea of like what a bed frame would be. I mean, like your standard DIY full build 2x4 studs, just walling, right? And everything kind of up behind the driver's seat. Using wood, 100% wood, and we were ripping all the factory paneling out. We weren't keeping anything. We had no idea. We were trying to figure out how to just put a simple TV in for them all matters. And so trying to just kind of figure out how to do it. And we kept messing with the idea. And we kind of got it nailed down to where, look, this concept, how I built it, won't last. It's not a product that's going to last. It's going to rattle. It's going to do these things.
It's going to absorb moisture and smell like your grandma's house, you know?
Yeah, it's going to do all of the things that when we started really actually saying, like, okay, maybe we kind of have something because we're seeing the buzz. We're kind of seeing what's going on with the market. We're seeing that people want to get out. We're just seeing all these things.
Kind of a minimalistic approach as well.
And so we kind of, that's through January. And then it's like, okay, maybe we dive deeper. So Brent and I kind of had the agreement that, hey, like, stay in Chillicothe for maybe another month, and kind of just see what can sprue up.
But let me kind of throw in something here.
love it.
My wife was not raised the way I was.
Okay.
You know, no NASCARs, no motorcycles, no sporting goods, no vans, no RVs.
Right.
And not a lot of camping. Some.
Yeah.
They did a little bit of canoeing and a little bit of camping, but
But went to the hotels after.
yeah, it was just a different. We traveled a lot. They didn't really travel much. So, so we took this van. I'm not sure it was all the exact same van. You know, things get a little confusing after a while. But what I know is we took this van and we went for a trip for her birthday. And so camping wouldn't normally be a great birthday thing, you know. That's like maybe.
Unless you were really into it.
Yeah, maybe. It'd be like, yeah. So camping wasn't really maybe your thing. But so we went camping. We drove to Monument Valley, Utah. When we got there that night, it was dark. We couldn't see any monuments. You know, it was completely dark. But we parked in the absolute perfect spot, not knowing it. And when we woke up the next morning, I popped those 2 doors open, and we looked past our feet, and we saw the sun coming up amongst those monuments. And it was such a tremendous experience. And I saw a smile on her face, and all of a sudden, this was the best birthday she ever had. And I'm like, I'm wondering, I think this might be the bigger thing. And anyway, I called Jarrod, and I said, man, we're having a blast. We're living this very simple life, sleeping in the back of a van and going biking. And we went and hiked down in the Monument Valley. And yet like this is going to be her most memorable, probably best birthday she's ever had, doing something she probably didn't even think she'd like. And so have you thought about this van kind of maybe being our bigger thing? And of course, he had already thought he had already thought that could be the bigger thing.
So if we're going to turn this thing into a business, where do we go? Is it wood, not wood? Is it bed lift, hydraulics? And in the early days of it, I mean, we would come up with an idea by noon. By 3 or 4 o'clock, we would have it ripped back out and start over. And that was every day. Really? For 6 months.
Trying to figure out the process.
Just figure out, like, is this gonna actually add value to customers down the road 5 years? Not just build a van to sell and just don't see it again. It's build a van. I mean, you guys were here last night with a van birthday that's today, and that van looked identical to exactly the day it left. And that was what was rolling through our minds was, okay, we want to
durability,
right? If we're going to sell something, we want to be able to stand behind it, and not just today, but we want to stand behind it in a year, 2 years. And so, Brent knew the ways of RVs that I didn't know. I didn't grow up traveling in RVs, so
we used to call them rattle traps.
Right, like doors. I never thought that doors would be such a big fight. And so, we start kind of morphing these ideas around, safety being a massive one. And so, so we built wood. Within a month, we had built everything into steel. And then Brent can kind of tell you on a kind of where we started, kind of figuring out and fine-tuning kind of the beast. And keep in mind, too, what's crazy is the Live van is actually almost an exact replica of the very first layout. It was just wood.
Yeah.
So it's that whole van. Now, granted, we make it sound like it's been 20 years, but it's been 3 crazy years. Over 150 vans built since, and it's a matter of we've just kept with the same thing, but we just continually keep tweaking it, improving it, and making it better, last longer, higher quality.
So this ripping and tearing process that he talks about, it is
not necessarily the recycling you're speaking
yeah
about.
Yeah it was enough to about drive me insane because it's prototyping, and I never had to do that before, but I could quickly see that if we're going to do more than add video monitors to a van or some running boards, or we're going to ski racks or whatever, this is a big deal. And the part that I like to bring up surprises. So here's a new surprise. Just before Jarrod came home, and what took him so long to even come home, it was part of this whole, do we dive into this van, full-fledged? Because this is a big deal. I'm seeing that we've ripped a van apart 10 times now, and it doesn't feel like we're any further than we were before. But knowing we wanted a quality product, am I still in for this? And what happened is just before
the long haul too.
Yeah, long haul.
Something big too.
Oh yeah.
And I was at a point in my life where I was kind of asking, I thought I was in for that bigger thing, but am I? Because just before that, I had a brain hemorrhage. And so, and what that means is when you get blood on your brain, something bad happens. And that particular day, I couldn't have a conversation with you because I couldn't understand what you were saying, and nor could I talk. And so I literally thought, this is it. And I thought, and I wasn't the smartest. I drove myself to the hospital, but I guess I also thought, as long as I'm still driving, I'm doing okay. But I couldn't talk. And so, there's kind of a moment where you say, do I kind of chill out the rest of my life? Because I was really faced with death. Do I chill out the rest of my life, or do I really go for it? Well, I'd kind of decided to go for it, but, just this process of like I say, the ripping and the tearing, it was a lot. And my son's standing over there, and he can tell you, he was in on some of those times in Chillicothe when we were first prototyping this van. I was about to go crazy. So I had decisions to make. But I think you do. When you're faced with something like that, it's like I'm either going to kind of just not do anything, or I'm going to go for it. And I finally came to the approach that we are just going to go for it. And when we came to that determination, you heard Jarrod say that, we'd been in Chillicothe and we decided to try to build vans out of Chillicothe. One day he said, if you want to be serious about this, the company has got to move to Kansas City. And I'll let Jarrod take it from there.
Yeah, so it was, it would have been about 4 or 5 months into the kind of history of the business. I was having to come back to the city. And what we in the early days, I kind of started with the ideas, but it was like, okay, we're going to hire people. My title was, GM. It was, I can't have you in the vans building vans. I need you building the business. And so we took that approach early on. We just said, well, okay, we're going to hire, we're going to get the right people in, we're going to, teach them, train them, and let them roll. Because this was new to all of us. I had a lot of background in audio, video, all that stuff, but I didn't know how to build a van. I didn't know layouts. I didn't know product types.
And this isn't necessarily like a popular area, because there are those popular areas where they're building vans.
Right.
San Diego, LA, and then Colorado's another really
Right.
one where there's multiple
Northeast or Northwest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, are you guys the only ones who,
Of our type, Kansas or the Missouri area has or used to have a ton of RV dealers, and we still have a lot in builders. But they're more motor coach. They're more limousine builders.
Right.
There's a lot of that here, but not this.
Of what we're doing, I think
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
the only ones.
Yeah, we'd be the only
So
ones.
then you moved over to Kansas City.
Right. And so, so we had everyone else kind of working the business, kind of helping grow, try to create so I'd come back to Chillicothe once or twice a week and say, hey, this isn't going to work. It's got to be done better than that. It's got to look cleaner. Basically, if you go in the break room, you see a massive Steve Jobs, posting and talk about the crazy ones. Yeah. And so then Brent and I made the agreement in the very beginning, which is I'm not going to let that van roll out unless I pretty much approve it. And everything we were building, I wouldn't approve.
Yeah.
It just kept going and going, and it's just build it, still not to the spec, rip it out. And then I had to come back to the city for the business that was growing. Because at the same time, from year 1 to year 2 of the daily rental business, we grew about 300% in 1 year. And so, we were just hustling and we were rolling with a lot of angles. But I quickly figured out with just talking with Brent, and then we did have kind of a more solid prototype, you could say, going at the time. And we had a local race team that we worked very closely with of ideas. Bicycle racing. So we would, we talked to all of them, and a lot of them are semi-pro. Some of them used to be pro, and it's like, hey, if you were to want a van like this, what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
They take it on trips.
Right. And they were always coming back saying, hey, we love this option, but it doesn't fully function for this. So we kind of kept morphing it. And then by that summer, I was getting ready to have my first child, actually. She's 2.5, and we call her the VanDoIt baby. For one, she thinks every van in here is hers. When she comes in, she terrorizes. She instructs people. Well, she's future builder first. She already is figuring out how to take door handles off of doors. If you lock it, she'll just take it off. And so, with that kind of coming on, it's like, okay, me trying to run a business that really needs me. It has to have me in it every day. I can't do that from Kansas City, where the business is somewhere else, and I really can't do it with having a child. And so I called Brent, and it was the middle of the summer, about 2.5 years ago, and just told him, kind of gave him an ultimatum a little bit, which said, either if we want this business to go anywhere, and I'm talking anywhere and get to potential sales, not lose, not just completely pitch away all the money that's been put into this. It has to come to the city, and I have to jump back in, knee deep, waist deep, just get hands on and just figure it out.
Drive it.
And that's exactly what we did. We made that decision with about 2 different talks that first day. Next morning, we made final decision. The end of that second day, Brent and 2 other people who worked for us for the corporation went in and loaded everything up in trailers, everything in vans, brought everything down to the city, and we had nowhere to go.
Yeah, we didn't have a location yet.
Where'd you guys think you were going?
We didn't
We
know.
didn't know.
We had literally no idea.
We only
Party
knew.
until you find the spot.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
what
much.
we did.
I mean, we started
pulled
calling
in trailers and we started going around looking at real estate.
Yep. We would go to a facility, say, "Hey, do you have spare space to like lease us, rent us? We just need a little cubbyhole for right now."
Yeah.
And you know, that's kind of how, if you want to summarize how we've gotten to the facility we're in, the number of vans we produce, it's doing that really every day for 2 years.
Yeah.
We wake up and we say, "Okay, what do we have to conquer today?
Yeah.
Don't worry about a week from now. What do we have to conquer today?"
And when we say 3 years and then 2 years, the first year really was this prototyping, you know, because we spent all those months in Chillicothe, you know, redoing and prototyping and research and development, having things tested again, redone. And then when we made that decision, we got to Kansas City, it was a whole new ball game. So we kind of did it. We took what we learned and built on that, but we continued to research, develop, and prototype for another 6 months. So basically, a first solid year of not selling anything, of absolutely just developing the best possible van we could, researching, getting opinions from people, getting feedback, you know, redoing it again until we finally got that first van that we said, this is the one that has the quality, marine grade. It's going to look the same 10 years from now as it does today as far as what we do to it. And modular and all the things that everybody was telling us that they wanted. We finally got that first one done. Went to the Philadelphia bike show to show it. That was our very first convention. And then we were off to the races. So we've really only been selling vans 2 years out of the 3. So that's why he mentions doing the same thing every day for 2 years. So.
And then it must have been, you guys must have decided earlier on that, for instance, we're going to build a model and sell this model, opposed to, well, if we're going to convert vans, why don't we just see what people want and they come in, oh, you want a dinette? Oh, we got
Like
your dinette.
Sketch
You
it
want
out on
this?
a napkin.
Yeah. Oh, why don't you do this?
Yeah.
That's like a big decision to be like, no, we are going to, obviously there is a lot of customization that you could do in it, but you guys have 2 models that you can customize, opposed to another builder who it's like, well, tell me what you want and I can build it. So why'd you guys kind of go that direction?
So I'll start this and let Jarrod finish it. I like to compare it to Chipotle, you know, and here's the reason. We have what I would call a more open concept, and then a lot more, I guess, options, and then still a more closed concept, but still with the ability, it's still modular and still with options. So I compare that to the wrap and the bowl. You know, you go into Chipotle, do you want a wrap or a bowl? There's other things, but basically that's the 2 main things. And then you can, once you know that foundation, then you can start working within that foundation for what you want in it. And I'll let Jarrod kind of tell you why we do it that way, which is 2 basic models with the ability to, you know, have options within those models.
Yeah, I'm not gonna fully compare us to, you know, other builders out there.
Say Chipotle.
Yeah, no, not Chipotle. But you know,
I'm the heavy. That's why I compare everything to food. You know,
he's all food. But I'm an economics major. I'm very numbers driven. I'm very accounting minded. You know, I'm macroeconomics. You know, what happens if, you know, the markets turn stuff. You know, coronavirus gets crazy. You know, we don't know. And so, you know, thinking about this business and the growth of it, a lot of it just boiled down to, you know, in some cases, I think these businesses start by hobby, and then people are good at it, so they turn it into a business. Yeah. And that's a little bit of what we did, but we're a second hand off of our parent company, which is Klein Van. So it's a second purpose, you know, from the passenger van. So for us,
and for the record, it's not that we do build on new vans.
Right.
That just really wasn't the reason we started. So,
right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when we were thinking about the whole growth of everything, it came down to, okay, what helps protect us? What helps, you know, make sure that we can produce a high quality product? And the only way we could do that is consistency. The only way that I first saw us being able to get where we want to get is looking at automobile OEM builders. Okay, what do? They repeat. They do a lot of repeat, and that's how they find their problems. And that's how we took the initial approach, which is we have to build our electrical system. The harness has to be the same, because vans, like, you go on any forum, go on anything, electrical systems, I mean, that's where
melt.
That's where people lose it. That's where people start their DIY build and say, "Oh no, now I'm dealing with electrical." So we wanted consistency. We wanted to find those gremlins. Not just that, but if we were going to create a support structure to help our customers, we needed to be able to know what a van is set up like if it's 8 hours away from us. We're not in Seattle. We're not in Colorado. We're not in the areas where a lot of our vans go. So we got to be able to service them from here, and the only way to do that was be consistent and put a ton of R&D in making those very intricate components that you don't see. Really put the value in those components, and to get there, really is a driving factor of we can't just do custom.
So a person can only imagine that if you do sketch out something on a napkin or a piece of paper, or you even do it on a CAD system, you really go for it. If it changes all the time, then how you're running your wiring is changing, how you're doing everything is changing, the structure is changing. So not only did we want quality, we wanted safety. And safety was number one. Quality and safety. From early on, we had to kind of say, are we going to go for form or function? And we said early on, we're going for function. Yep. We don't want to do something that looks good but doesn't perform well, because that's not what this is about. This is about function. This is about,
Instagram likes are nice and everything, but having the longevity of a camper van is much more important.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
A lack of road drama, and
I keep on hearing road drama come up. Is that something within the company?
Well, it is something that we talked about early on, that there would be nothing worse than a vacation where everybody has taken time off work and you got your kids and you're on this vacation and everything's breaking. That's just that's road drama, and there's no way to be hated quicker, I wouldn't think, than to burn up.
Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, a Chevy Chase sort of a vacation.
Yeah.
So let me give you an example. Early on, we wanted a bed that went up and down for obvious reasons. Everything in our van moves and removes. And then has multi-uses. So we wanted a bed system that was over a garage area, that if there wasn't bicycles in the back or something that was tall, you could lower that bed down, and now you could have more sleeping space. On the other hand, if you had tall items in the back, you could raise it up. And then, we had this gear slide that comes in and out. We wanted all these moving things to be extremely safe. And the only way to do that is to create it one time and not reinvent it every single time, and make sure it's safe, make sure there's no pinch points, and make sure that there's not, something there as things are moving are going to hurt people. Well, we started our first bed lift on an actuator system. Electrical actuator system. It had 800 pounds of upward force, but an actuator system, I've learned all this over time. I didn't know this. This is not my cup of tea. But an actuator system is kind of like, I guess, like a corkscrew a little bit, and it's got the same amount of downward force. So I was going on a mountain bike adventure with these people that Jarrod was referring to earlier on this bike team. And in particular, one was, he's in the Mountain Biking Hall of Fame. And he was also my wrestling coach in high school. And he's that mentality. And so you never have to worry about what he's thinking. And so that particular day, it was a bit moist outside. And we had a digital deal on the back of the van. So you'd open the doors up, and to lift the bed up, you pushed a button like your cell phone. It was heat sensitive. Yeah. And vice versa. If you wanted it down, you pushed the button. Well, what happened that particular day is something malfunctioned, and I don't know what, but you know how your phone will malfunction if you get it wet or whatever?
Yeah, it gets too hot.
All of a sudden, the bed starts coming down. Well, we had 4 bikes in there, and I'm betting that each bike was worth at least $3,000, if not a lot more. They were all carbon fiber. And the bed starts coming down, and my wrestling coach from high school says, Brent, you better do something. Shit's about to break. And you can cut that if you need to. But that's exactly what he said, and you knew he meant business. And so I had flashbacks, almost PTSD flashbacks of him yelling at me in wrestling practice. And I ran over, and I tried like heck to stop that thing from coming down, and it was coming down fast. All of a sudden, the tires started to burst, and you could hear creaking, and you just watched this crush these bicycles. And I called Jarrod that night, and I said, scrap the whole bed thing. He said, well, that's our only design. And I said, not going to have it, because I pictured, it wasn't about the bikes. I pictured a kid pinned in amongst the bikes. I pictured a sibling thinking it's funny. They're up in bed asleep and they think it's funny to raise the bed and an arm's caught, And so I'm like, that just doesn't work, it doesn't work. So point is we had to do, there's a lot of unsafe things that go on in vans. Because they're one-off designs, the number of fires we've seen, the number of melted wires, the number of just things that are just completely unsafe, pinch points and places to puncture you and things. We had to get rid of all of that in addition to have the quality and in addition to have the functionality. The only way to do that was to build something, know we had it right, know it was a product that we could both put our names on and put that product out in a safe fashion. So here's how we fixed that. So we thought we were done. I mean, didn't you kind of think we were done that day?
Back to renting vans.
We had a meeting the next morning. Brent got back, or he called me on a Friday. It was Monday morning, and it was just like chirps, because we all knew it's like, okay, well, what if we put this safety pin in? No, it won't work. And I just kept coming up with like all these ways we can make the system
a double
work.
button system.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
you have to push both of them.
Yeah. What about
Two keys.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Put the bed down.
That's it. That's it.
Like kill the power.
Yeah.
And finally it was like, no, it's got to be something that when it comes down, it can't smash.
And it's got to move slow.
Yeah, and going up, it's got to move slow. And it's like, well,
manual.
Right.
I want a manual.
Well, we ended up getting to what we have now, which is a hydraulic system, which is all independent of one another. If something's sitting underneath, the only weight that comes down is what's on above. And it's extremely slow moving, and we do that on purpose. And we even put pins in to where if someone puts a drill in there to speed it up, it'll snap the pin.
So you can't go too fast.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just kept having that mentality. And after that meeting, it was about a week later. Finally, Brent and I were having a conversation. I said, that will be what will make us different, is that if we can continually make sure we're fixing those things. And that's where, like I mentioned, like every day it was come up with an idea and then figure out every issue with it. And if it has enough problems, scrap it. Or if you can fix the problems, fix them. But it didn't matter what it was. We had to do it.
And what I love is just sitting here talking about, the early stages and the vans that you guys have. You talked about you want to make sure there's no road drama. You want to make sure the customer's always happy. The durability, the safety is a huge thing. Not once did you say, I want it to look pretty. Now, I definitely want to say, as people can see, these are beautiful looking vans.
Yeah.
But the intent of what you guys wanted to do was outside of those pretty pictures that you see on Instagram was the function.
Yeah.
Right.
And to really do that. So why did you guys choose two models to go forward with? I mean, you can customize them as much as you want. There's lots of options. But what's the difference between these two models that you have right here?
I mean, when we started out, it started with the Go, which is now you kind of transformed to the Live. But the Go is the original van. That's the only one model we had. We ran with that for about a year to year and a half of selling. But over that course of a year, we kept hearing from our customers, and hearing to people who were trying to drive home to be able to put in a sales, and we kept having certain things pop up. We had people who were promoters who needed to be able to haul a lot of gear. It needed to be a gear hauler, and sometimes I need no bed at all.
Maybe a motorcycle hauler.
Yeah, maybe put motorcycles in, maybe
snowmobile.
Snowmobile. And so what we were trying to figure out was, okay, we're starting to kind of get a little bit of divide in. We have the van life, the people who want to live. Yeah. And that's kind of where the Live name originates from. And then you have the people who want to do.
Yeah.
And that's the do. And it originated from the idea of, okay, and it kind of boiled down to, we had a couple sales reps who kind of just came to us and says, hey, we need something, and it kind of just boiled down to one issue, which was, we need something that you can walk through.
Open it up.
We need something that if someone just wants shelving down both sides, it's shelving. And that's so, Brent and I are talking, it actually happened out at Sea Otter Classic. We were talking to some companies out there. And basically it just boiled down to, guys, we love your van, love it. Think it's awesome, all the features, all the function. Like, this is something we'd want to buy because we know it'll last. But it doesn't work for what we actually need it for, to be a business write-off, kind of, for one. We can't use this thing the way we would want to for the show. We can't throw a ton of tents in it, plus throw all the gear on top. You can do that in a Go, but the biggest factor is got to walk through. And so Brent came back, and I didn't go to that show, and basically said, look, we're missing this piece of the puzzle. We got to figure this puzzle out. Well, what it turned into was the Do. And we didn't know kind of which way we'd go with it. We didn't really know how, it would kind of all pan out necessarily for the style. But I knew two things. One was the versatility of the Go is what was selling the Go. You can take a hanging cabinet and take it from one side of the van, you can put it on the other. Or you can take 5 of the same shelf, put them in there, really 6.
Kitchen pod in, kitchen pod
right.
out, seats in, seats out.
Right, and so it kind of came down to a matter of, okay, so if we want a van that can still have all the same features in one way or another as the Go van, now the Live, and we also wanted it to be able to be versatile to where we could make features like shelving units and things like that be able to move from one spot to another. We had to create something that could give us just a huge foundation for building whatever and customizing and all the carting however you want. And that's when we came up with basically what we call our skeleton, and the A-frame, I guess.
We also call it an adult erector set. Now, kind of a funny story about that is that my boys were a little too young to ever hear about an erector set. So one day I kept calling it an adult erector set, and they were making eye contact with me, and I'm like, why are they looking at me like that? And one of them pulled me aside and said, Dad, you have got to quit putting sexual innuendo into everything that you do. And I said, no, what you have to understand is that was actually like toys. It was an erector set. It was like Legos, except, you could build things like skyscrapers and tools and all sorts of things. And that really is kind of, it's both vans, but the Do, as I mentioned earlier, is the more open concept, allows you to do more. And really, the needs are about half and half, honestly. They're about half of the people say, no, I want that big, comfortable bed, and I always want it there, and I like the garage underneath, and if we want to sleep more people, we won't haul gear, we'll put a mattress down below, mattress above. It's more about camping and sleeping, less about maybe business. Less about hauling big items. Well, then the Do, is definitely an erector set. The platforms that Jarrod builds for this, they can turn into a desk, a workbench, literally a couch, a bed, bunk beds. You can move them around. You can move them horizontally, laterally, vertically. It is incredible. You can move these things however you need the van to be, and not everybody has that need, so why hassle with it, right? But when you do have the need to open that thing up and put motorcycles or snowmobiles or anything else, or a lot of businesses use the Do van for like a rep van, so it'll be a showroom by day to bring the ski shop owner out to their van to see the brand new skis and get them out of their environment and away from the distractions. And then at night, all the platforms come out like Murphy beds, and all of a sudden they're sleeping. So that's a lot of how that one is used, but it's also just used for a lot of fun.
Very versatile.
Very versatile versus the Live, which is really, it is very versatile, but it is definitely more on the side of living, more along the side of camping. So anyway, thought you might enjoy the, I have to bring my boys, my girls too. There's a lot of stories about my girls in camping as well. I could tell you a bunch of them. Had 2 girls as well, and they're all equally as awesome.
Yeah, and so hearing the story is pretty great, and how fast and how you guys had these big visions, and for it to actually see it in fruition. I mean, I know you guys have different goals where you want to go. The vans just themselves, how the quality, the craftsmanship of it, and like you said, hey, I really like that. Are you a doer? Are you a liver? You know, like which one are you? Because we can cater to them, and each one can be transformed into something that you want. Now, something that, you know, there's nice vans out there. You know, there's companies that have grown, but something that I've really seen being here the last 2 days is your team. Like the team in here, everybody's smiling, everybody's super friendly. Also, some people are all related around here. Can you guys kind of touch on, you know, how important the team is to you and the people behind building these vans? Because it really shows in the final product, I think.
I mean, originally I said that out of college, I worked corporate. Corporate life, you're a number. You know, you grow up a scale, you know, money's great, all those things are great, but at the end of the day, you're a number. And a company that I work for is, you know, north of 40,000 employees. I loved my bosses. Next to Brent, my first boss out of college in Valdosta is one of the greatest guys I know. And I'll never dog the company.
He kind of feels he has to throw me in.
Yeah.
I'm his father-in-law.
It's true. That's fact. That's fact.
There is that.
I have to see him because he's staying at my house tonight.
Yeah.
But you know, one of my drives, for some reason I've had this drive ever since I was little. I don't know why, but I was always like the quarterback of the football team. I was the you know, one of the captains always whenever I was in the middle of something. I was always kind of like the ramrod of a lot of somehow I would never hold a title in like student council, but I'd end up kind of running it. And I just kind of just I've always had that mentality. You know, even in college, there were situations like that, kind of take bull by the horns in a case. But I thoroughly enjoy really giving people kind of better opportunities at life. That's one massive drive we have for just the business itself. Probably one of my best days is always when people are picking up their vans and they're bringing their kids with them because they're leaving here going on a week-long vacation. Yeah. I love it. I love every minute of it. But it's not just that, but it's the people who work here too, because they enjoy what they're doing. We can create an environment where, you know, people enjoy what they do. People are able to be a part of something that's bettering people's lives, theirs and others. And so, you know, a massive drive I have inside me is to provide for my family first, but this is also family too. You know, I have my personal family at home, but everyone here, I mean, they're all brothers to me, they're sisters, they're family. I love them all. And it's you know, it's like I'll tell my guys all the time is, you know, I'll always do everything in my power to try to keep pushing us for better. You know, I need them as much as they need me, but I will always do everything I can to do that and supply for them. That's a massive drive for me.
So, yeah, it really is all about the team. And, you know, Jarrod was the quarterback of the football team. And, you know, if there's any position you figure out you can't do it yourself, it's that. Yep. You could see in the Chiefs Super Bowl game in the first 3 quarters where Patrick Mahomes was having loads of pressure put on him. He was running the ball more than he has before, and you know, you saw him get really hit really hard in the arm, and the ball pops out, and everybody's cringing, and it's like, all right, you know, Patrick, you can't do this yourself, and it's not that he was trying. It's just, you know, it just proves it takes everybody doing their job, and certainly everybody here is such an integral part of our growth. Absolutely, we have this amazing team. I can't do it myself. Jarrod can't do it himself. Nobody can. But when we all come together, it's amazing what we can do. I got lots of cool phrases. Here, I'll give you a few. So, team, together each achieves more. Isn't that really cool? And I'm not the one that came up with that, but it's a really cool phrase.
You can take it.
Yeah, I'll take it. Here's a few others. Obey the call of the wild. I didn't come up with that either.
Do you have any ones that
It's
you
actually
did come up with?
it's actually a book. Yeah. Okay. So we facilitate experiences. So all these little things I'm saying, they're really kind of in my heart, and they go both ways. It's what we can help do for a customer, but it's also, as Jarrod said, it's so awesome we have people come in here and say, I saw you guys online, I just want to work here. And it's so cool. Chad in particular, I mean, he's this ultra marathon runner, trail runner. He runs 100 miles on trails at a time. And he just loves this life, and he loves this. He loves to be associated with this. And he came in, he basically said, I'm not leaving until I have a job. And he is just unbelievable. Yeah. What an unbelievable part of the team. It's your life. We want to help you live it. So there's another one, right?
Great.
Hey, here's another good one. VanDoIt, driving adventure. 2 meanings behind that, right? So we're giving away all of our slogans. John came up with that one. I didn't come up with that
John.
one. So anyway, it's true on both sides. It's true for the customer. When we talk about, the customer and how awesome it is on delivery day to see the kids and the dogs and everybody loading in the van and knowing, that we're facilitating experiences. We're driving adventure. Yep. But it is true for the people who work here, and that's why there's smiles on faces, because they know they're a valued part of something really cool. They see what we're doing, but it also is, it's driving adventure in their lives. Yep. This job is an adventurous one. I mean, it's something different every day, building a new van for somebody every day for a special use in a lot of cases. So anyway, there's I probably have some more slogans, but you can find them on the website too. But anyway, yeah, it's fun. It's fun for what we can do as a team, for our team members, for their families. It's fun for what we produce because we know we are facilitating great experiences. Yeah. So if you got anything to add,
that's all that.
You can't.
No.
And then to just end on, you guys are seeing a lot of success. There's about 100, if not more, vans outside. We're inside where you guys have 10 of them, being done, and 2 of them already have left. So you've seen so much success. Where do you guys want to take VanDoIt, or where do you see? Do you just think new models, growing it so you have a higher volume output? What's kind of like the next level?
I'll answer this first. Maybe Jarrod has other ideas. To be honest, we don't really talk about it. I feel like today's world is kind of have an exit strategy from the time you start the business. Like I'm going to build this up and I'm going to sell it to a private equity group or whatever. That's just not the way I was. I'm third generation. So, my grandpa, started the company, and my dad, he's done a whole lot of things in life, but cars and vans have been very, very consistent. And he's still in the power sports business. He retired from the auto industry, and I am him now, but he couldn't stop. He had gotten out of power sports and motorcycles and stuff, and the next day after he retires, he goes out and buys a motorcycle or a ATV, lawnmowers, you name it, chainsaws. Yeah. So here we are 3 generations later, and I don't think we sold any of these businesses. So I say that to say that I had a long-term approach at this, and I don't think Jarrod would have wanted me to have anything other. Now, do I know where that leads me? I don't. To be honest with you, there was a little hiccup in life when I was a senior in high school, and things were a little tough. You had the either Black Tuesday or Black Friday of where the stock market fell by huge amounts, and it was kind of the first Great Recession, and we had a little bit of a financial hiccup, in business, and I didn't even really know what I was going to do, and I didn't end up getting to go to college because of it. And I'll be honest, I had no idea where I was going or what I was going to do necessarily. Things were very uncertain. And it really was by the grace of God, and I believe I'm not capable of what I've done, and I'm not very smart. But I really believe that I've been led to this point. And so I honestly have no grand design. I think I leave it in the Lord's hands. But I don't have any desire to have an exit strategy. I want to, and I hope Jarrod feels the same way. I'm in for the long haul. I want to drive this adventure as long as that's what's in the cards for me.
Absolutely. But then back to that conversation before you guys first started, where you're like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this big.
Right.
Is this it, or is there another level to it?
I honestly don't know. We're 9 months behind right now, so it feels like there's another level.
Okay.
And I got to say, Jarrod and I, we'll let a cat out of the bag in front of some of our employees here. And we do have a lot of family members here. And by the way, like Ted, who works for us, he's been with me for 32 years. A lot of long-term employees. So when Jarrod says they all feel like family, they really do. We got really great people and lots of long-term employees and really a lot of family here. And, Lane's standing over there. He's my nephew. And so, a lot of family involved. So, but we've been looking at buildings and we've been looking at growth, but we don't want to force it either.
Yeah.
We want to give good customer service. We want to give good quality. And I think just because the business is there doesn't mean we should force growth. I'd rather stay at 9-month waiting list and not grow any further till I know we will do it right than to say, oh, the business is there. We're 9 months behind. Let's go buy a new building. Let's hire some more people and grow. The quality and doing things right is very important. And so if it all comes together, we'll grow. But honestly, if we feel that growth will lead to either poor customer service or poor quality, then we'll keep doing what we're doing. So that's kind of, I hope that's a very vague answer, but it's kind of more along the lines of I'm open for wherever the Lord happens to take things.
I fully agree with Brent. I mean, we're on the same page of it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of it just comes down to a matter of what he said is, we have to have the right people in the right positions, and we got to know our team wants to handle that next step. Not just that, but does the markets want to handle it? Does the vans themselves, like you asked, more models? I don't know. I never saw the do coming, and then we realized there was a need for the do. I can't really say, because in business you don't know what the next thing is. If you ask Bill Gates what he missed in life, is he didn't think anyone would ever carry around a computer in their pocket, so he never went after the phones. That's where Apple gained all their ground. And so for us, it's a matter of it just comes down to we don't really know fully what the next step is. Growth has been great. Things have been amazing. Customer support, all the things, we truly, some days it might not feel like it, but, the things that we truly take of massive value are the quality, the customer support, the follow-up, making sure our customers are happy with what they have. That biggest piece of it, and just taking care and making sure what people are hoping they're receiving on the day they pick up is what they're receiving, making sure all those lines line up. And it'll become down to a matter of, I think, as Brent said, we don't know what the next step is. And we really haven't since day one of this business. And so I always say this all the time. I say it to all my employees. I say it to Brent. I say it to my wife, is great things grow organically. They're not forced. And so, it's a matter of where's this thing continue to grow. And we're not scared to let it keep going. It's a matter of, does it make sense, and are we ready? And so. Yeah.
I mean, Jarrod didn't know what exactly was going to happen when he came, kind of an act of faith. And we, I'm game. Just as when he asked me, are you open to something bigger? I am absolutely open to something bigger. So that's a little better answer.
No, that's great, guys. So much.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That was great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Do we do three clap?
absolutely.
Do a clap
We'll
on
do
three?
a clap. Why not? 1, 2, 3. Let's do it, baby.
Nailed it.
All right.